The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Oh, man, it's been a long weekend. I was so happy about all the things that I was hearing and seeing. And I'm going to be honest with you. I took in a lot of Commanders content because I wasn't active. I had to take it in from afar, which was killing me because I really wanted to be a part of the action. But got to spend as much time as I can with the fam. As you know, the end of the summer kind of draws near. School is about to pick up and everybody's going to be busy. The year hits. Once the football season really hits, it's over for me. I don't have any time. So spending time, that quality time with the fam is important. But I was really heavy on the Commanders content. I listened to Josh Harris on Adam Schefter's podcast. I watched a couple of videos with other players, you know, all over the place, the interview with Sam somewhere else. So I was taking a lot of stuff in over the weekend, reading a lot of literature, you know, surrounding the team, watching a lot of the videos and the little clips that people were putting out, that the team was putting out, kind of piecing everything together. And I came up with some takeaways from the things that I've seen and being able to deduce some of the things that I've heard. We heard from a lot of players, and I told you this is going to be a theme of the summer because this is what you do during training camp. So you're going to hear from a multitude of players on, let's see, the 28th, which was Friday. We heard from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different people, 8 players and Coach Ron Rivera. So a lot of people and activity there on the 28th. On 29th, we heard from Ron Rivera, Andrew Wiley, Cody Barton. A lot to talk about there as well. And then today, no practice Sunday, and that's going to be the theme. You heard from Rivera, McLaurin, and Sweat. So, again, a lot to kind of take in. Tomorrow is the start of padded practices. So now we can really get into a serious discussion about the offensive line in particular, because until the pads go on and you get into the physicality of the run game and things of that nature, it's going to be hard to really assess who has the leg up in the left guard competition. What kind of synergy are we seeing on the right side, Andrew Wiley and Sam Cosmi? You know, what are we getting out of the center position with Nick Gates? And then just the communication of the entire line as a whole. So once you get those pads on, you start getting those twists and stunts. You're having to pick those things up, being physical with, you know, blitz pickups and things of that nature. That's when you start to really get a feel for, all right, who are our 5 guys going to be? Again, I think 4 of the spots are already spoken for. It's really just left guard that we're really talking about having to figure out who's going to lock that spot down. But now we're really getting into the meat and potatoes of training camp. This is when shit gets real tomorrow. And Rivera talked about the schedule, and we'll talk about that. But let's start with the 28th. We'll go through each of these days of practice, kind of give you some tidbits from each day. And then I want to jump into my biggest takeaways from the first 5 days of training camp. And I have my biggest takeaway, the one that stands above all else. And I'll give you that once I get to the end of all of these breakdowns. So I want to start first with July 28th, because that was the last day that I left you. And I didn't have any coverage. I was out of the office. So Friday's practice was day 3 of training camp. And we heard from a bevy of players: Fedarian Mathis, Benjamin St. Juste, Byron Pringle, who just got here a couple of days prior, De'Ami Brown, Jahan Dotson, Ron Rivera spoke, Cam Curl, Duron Payne, and Brian Robinson. So the latter 4, Rivera, Curl, Payne, and Robinson, all had formal press conferences where they sat down behind the backdrop, or in front of the backdrop rather, and actually spoke, fielded questions. The other 5 players all were media scrums. So, bunch of people gather around a player after practice, shove a camera into their face, and start recording, and then just rapid fire questions, and then they get them out of there. So for Darian Mathis, nothing really there to kind of digest. He just is happy to be back, happy to be on the field, happy to be back playing with his brothers, and really starting to feel like himself again after the big injury last season. So it's good to see him out there, because I think he's going to have – he was playing well. I know he didn't have a lot of snaps. He got injured in the very first game, I think on either the first or second possession of the game. So it's not like he had a lot. But in the preseason, we saw very quickly, and even early in the Jacksonville game, that Phil Mathis was going to be a problem. So I'm really excited about him, Ridgeway, and the Bama Wall really having, I think, one of the best and deepest groups in the NFL in terms of the defensive tackle position. Byron Pringle, he spoke about, coming here, knowing the offense already, which I talked about. That's the key when you see all of these Chiefs players coming here, specifically on the offensive side. We really haven't brought any Chiefs defensive players. Go figure, because EB doesn't have anything to do with the defensive side of the football. So every Chiefs player that has been brought on board, whether it's Andrew Wiley, Byron Pringle, Marcus Kemp, or now Gore, all of these guys are on the offensive side because they know the offensive scheme. EB knows them intimately, knows what to expect from them, and hence these guys get an opportunity here. So Pringle talked about that, knowing the offense and just feeling like, hey, I just got to put my best foot forward to give myself an opportunity to make this roster. Dyami Brown spoke, and he talked about the relationship he and Sam Howell have, how they've grown together, and how this has been a big offseason for the both of them, because, I think Dyami really feels like he's finally going to get a real opportunity to show, because, in the rookie season, it's kind of tough for a receiver, especially if, a guy like Dyami really didn't run the route tree at North Carolina. Let's keep it a buck. He was either going deep or he was going super short, and, the intermediate stuff wasn't a lot of real route running involved. That's why, when you hear Ron consistently talk about contested catches and how he was one of the best in college football when he came out, that's because he wasn't running any routes. He would run 12 yards and come back to 10. Like, that's the extent of what he was doing. It wasn't anything. It wasn't anything, unique or crazy. He wasn't running a ton of routes, and thus these guys were able to kind of stick in his hip pocket because he wasn't running a ton of routes. There wasn't a lot of creativity there. So there was an adjustment period for him coming into the NFL. I thought last year he was ready for more opportunities, and it just didn't happen because he took advantage of the opportunities. We saw the Tennessee game. He made the big catch before half against Philadelphia. He made a big catch on the first possession of the game against Atlanta that led to a touchdown. When he got opportunities, I thought he made the most of them. So I think it's just about getting more opportunities, and I think he feels like a lot of his opportunities are going to be connected to Sam Howell because of their synergy, because of their familiarity with one another, that Sam is going to look for him in certain situations when he's on the field and give him an opportunity to make some plays. And I think because of that, he feels like he's going to get an opportunity, a real shot this year. So I'm excited for Dyami Brown because I really think he's got the talent to, we've had a run here where we, first round outside of Terry, we've struggled with receivers, drafting guys with AGG. Obviously, if you go back, we could go all the way back to the 2008 draft with Devin Thomas and Malcolm Kelly. But even, moving into Josh Doxson and company, we've struggled, Trey Quinn. It doesn't matter what round, we've struggled with receivers. We haven't had a ton of, Ryan Grant. We haven't had a ton of guys be successful here that we've drafted, and they've played here for a very long time. A lot of the guys that we talk about and have this reverence for, we got them from other teams, whether it's Pierre Garçon or Deshaun Jackson or Santana Moss. We got all those players from other teams. Rarely is it a guy that we drafted here that stays here and ends up being a prolific player for us at the receiver position. That's part of the reason why we've attached ourselves to Terry, because Terry is one of the few guys we've actually spent a draft pick on, and he's actually come up big for us, and we feel like there's a chance that he can start his career and end it here in Washington. Diami, I think, has a chance to maybe put himself in a position where he doesn't have to get his next check or his next contract from someone else. He can get it from us, and I think this is the season that's really going to help determine that, because this is year 3 for Diami. And if I've said this already, if Ron doesn't work out here, Diami's probably not going to be here next year. Next group's going to come in, and he's going to be one of those casualties that kind of gets caught up in the wash of a new regime coming in, cleaning the house, and wanting to bring their own guys in here. So this is a big year for Diami Brown, honestly speaking. And he talked about that and talked about his, all of the workouts that him and Sam have done, going back to UNC together, things of that nature. So I'm looking forward for Diami Brown this year. I'm excited about him. John Dotson, just continues to talk about, the growth, the evolution, the process, this being his second year now, things that he can expect, feeling really comfortable in the scheme as he continues to get used to the verbiage and all the things that entails. But, last year, one of the things that, he had to adjust to, speed of the game, the amount of games. There's a rookie wall that you hit when you're in college football. You only play 11, 12 games. Depending on where you are, if you're a really good team, you probably play 13, 14 games. You play in a championship game, and then you play in a bowl game, playoff game, rather. You can get up there to 14, 15 games in a season. But if you go to Penn State, you're probably not playing in the playoffs, and Jahan Dotson never did. And so you're not playing in a Big Ten championship game. So you're probably only playing in 11, 12 games max in a season. And so you hit that wall when you get to 15 and 16 games. And even though he missed some time last year, it was still, a bit of a reality check for him. And I think now he's like, I know what to expect. So I'm expecting big things from Jahan this year. I really, truly am. Benjamin St. Juice, I just love listening to him talk because he's very, very introspective, but at the same time, he's aware of everything that's going on around him, not just being able to talk about himself and be hypercritical of his performance or whatever's going on, but he's very aware of what's going on around him. And I love this quote from him on Friday after practice, where he essentially said, the unpredictability of this offense, the ability for them to stretch the field vertically is the thing that he's noticed the most from EB's arrival. And he's like, yo, listen, I'm just going to tell you like this. EB came from the AFC. They scoring 30-plus points over there. Like this 20 to 23 point performance shit ain't happening on that side of the bracket. Those boys are scoring 30-plus. If you want to beat Kansas City, you want to beat Cincinnati, you want to beat Buffalo, you can't be showing up scoring 20 or 23 points thinking that's going to get it done. So EB's coming from a world where you had to score 30, and he's bringing that same mentality here to Washington. And these NFC teams they're not ready for that because we're not doing that on this side. We're not scoring 30-plus points and getting into big-time shootouts, not on this side of the bracket. So there's only a handful of teams on the NFC that can do that. And that's why if this offense is dynamic and explosive, we're going to be a problem because there aren't many teams on the NFC side that are doing that. This is more of a defensive side of the bracket. AFC is the side that's putting up big-time points. And EB's bringing that mentality like, hey, I understand that, we want to run the ball, we get the ball out of our quarterback's hand, all that good stuff, but we also want to take shots and be aggressive when those opportunities present itself. And we're looking to put points on the scoreboard. And that's what Benjamin St. Juice has noticed thus far. And I love that. I love that from Benjamin St. Juice. So then you get to the actual pressers from the 28th. And we'll start with Cam Curl. I feel like Cam Curl is locked in. Obviously, it's a contract year for him. So it takes on a greater meaning. But he's locked into football, and I loved his mindset at the press conference because it shows where he is from a mental standpoint. And I think he is a reflection of where the defense is, because I view Cam Curl as one of the defensive leaders, one of the guys that's constantly talking on the defense, that really has a really good sense of what Jack is trying to get done, because they put Cam in so many different situations, and it showed last year because when he wasn't on the field, it was problematic for the defense as a whole. And that just goes to show you how big of a role Cam Curl plays in this defense. So listening to him talk to me is like a reflection of Jack. And Cam Curl strikes me as one of those guys that's a sponge. He soaks up all of that information. When you speak, he listens. He internalizes everything. So when Cam is at the podium and he says, the biggest thing that we got to do this year is we got to get off to a fast start. That's being preached by Jack Del Rio. That's being preached by Ron Rivera, but specifically Jack Del Rio. Let's not wait till week 7 to hit our stride defensively. Let's not wait till the second quarter or the third quarter of this game to get our shit together. Let's come out first snap of the game, week number 1, and set the tone for the entire season. And here's the thing. We haven't done that 2 years in a row under Jack. 2020 was outstanding. Again, the bar was set really low after 19. He had to come in here and look, you couldn't get much lower than where we were when he showed up. But we played really well in 2020. 21 was a disappointment. We didn't get our shit together until like week 8 against Green Bay. All right. And so that took a while. And the toll that it took on us early in the season, struggling, ultimately caught up to us late in the season. Because it took you so long to get your act together. By the time everybody caught up with one another in terms of, winning games, gaining confidence, we ran out of gas at the finish line, and you know what happened, 7-10. 2022, the defense bounced back. They were a good unit again. Unfortunately, there were games in there where they struggled, and a lot of it was coincidentally enough when Cam Curl wasn't in the lineup. But whatever the case may be, we started off slow last year. Jacksonville, Detroit games in particular were not good defensive performances and efforts. So the message is clear. We need to start fast, and we need more turnovers. And Cam Curl said both of those things at the podium. And I think that's the message that's being preached. We got to start fast, and we got to create some turnovers. Extra opportunities for the offense, shorter fields for the offense, more scoring opportunities for the offense. And if we can do that, I think we're going to be a dangerous team this season. So I love hearing that from Cam Curl. He's locked in. He's not worried about the contract. And this is the thing you got to remind yourself as a player. It's hard because you're looking for that big deal that offers you that security that you've worked your entire life for. But if you go out and get it done, you'll get paid. This isn't the running back position we're talking about. You go out as a safety like Cam Curl, who's already proven his worth as a general on the field. You go out, and if Cam Curl goes out, forces 3 fumbles this year, picks off 3 or 4 passes, he's getting broken off. You know what I'm saying? The only way Cam Curl doesn't get the payday necessarily that he deserves, and I still think he's going to get it regardless, is if he has, a typical Cam Curl year, but he doesn't create any turnovers. And that's the biggest thing that's holding him back right now, is the lack of turnovers. He forces turnovers this year, I guarantee the deal gets done next year. And he knows that. That's part of the reason that he's talking about fast starts and turnovers. But as a team, those things are being preached. So Duron Payne was back at practice on Friday for the first time since camp opened, which was a sight for sore eyes. He was dealing with a toe injury. This is how you know Duron is, and I told you see this evolution, even with Montez today. We'll get to that a little bit later on, but this is how you know that there's an evolution taking place with some of these players as they get comfortable and they get more acclimated to the NFL life and dealing with the media and things of that nature. Duron Payne's press conference on Friday, his first day of camp, was 8 minutes long. There was a time where you probably could have combined 3 or 4 Duron Payne pressers and you still wouldn't have gotten 8 minutes out of it in totality. Okay. Hell, just maybe a year ago, you probably could have combined 3 Duron Payne pressers and you might not have gotten 8 minutes out of it. For him to sit down and answer questions for 8 minutes, Duron is definitely comfortable. He's a different dude. And I just like he was always a guy that struck me as a fun dude to be around, but just extremely introverted. But now there's a sense of peace with Duron. Like, he would always say this line, and I would hear him, but it takes on a different meaning now as I listen to him and I watch him interact with his teammates and go out and play ball. He always said, look, man, I just like being out here with my brothers, and I just like playing ball and making plays. And I remember him saying that over and over again. I'm like, man, okay, that's cool. But you see it now. Like, he's all about ball. And the more guys you have that are like that, the more dangerous you become. And Duron is like, yeah, I tightened up a few moves. I got an extra couple that I added to the bag because I know they're going to come after me this year. And so he says, I'm ready. You know what I mean? Got a couple of extra clubs in the bag that I ain't have last year because I know they're going to try to adjust to me. I know it's going to be some extra shit that I get this year. And he's like, I like that they moved Sam Cosme inside because Sam is a little quicker. He's going to give me some different looks. He's a better athlete inside than them boys we had last year that I was whooping up on in practice every day. So I love the energy that Duron is giving off. He's poised for another big season, man. And if he gives us what he gave us last year, we're going to be really tough to deal with because you already know what it's going to be with Jonathan Allen. The consistency has always been there. Duron, that was his first year really exploding. We get that again, and that becomes a theme. Like, if he turns into a Chris Jones type where this is what we're getting every year, this defense is going to take off. Like, that's what you need is the consistency. You can do it once. Doing it on a consistent basis is what separates you from the rest of the guys in the league. If this is an every year occurrence where Duron has got 10 and a half, 11 sacks, somewhere in that neighborhood, this defense is problematic. So, again, I love that he's back. He said it was a minor situation with his toe. He wouldn't tell them, which is smart, which toe it was. But it's just good to have him back. And then Brian Robinson spoke on the 28th, which was Friday as well. And I enjoyed his presser the most out of anyone because what have I been telling you all offseason about Brian Robinson? What I've been telling you guys. I told you guys, and this started with me around the draft because I was watching tape of other players that were playing against Alabama to get a sense for what they were as football players. And I couldn't help but watch Brian Robinson because he's making all of these dynamic plays. And I told you guys, and I've told you this repeatedly, we didn't see the real Brian Robinson last year. And I told you so many times, I found myself, I can't speak for you, I found myself forgetting that Brian Robinson got shot and that he missed the first 3 games or 4 games of the season. I forgot at times because he was so physical and he was running downhill and he was running people over. I got caught up in thinking this is Brian Robinson. And then I watched the film over the offseason and I said, this ain't Brian Robinson. We didn't even get the Brian Robinson that, and remember, we saw flashes in the preseason. And that's when it dawned on me, like, bro, he was playing at a different speed and at a different level in the preseason because remember, he wasn't the starting running back initially. That job was up in the air. We weren't sure which way it was going to go. And then Antonio Gibson fumbled. And Brian Robinson took over. And he was running like a madman in that Carolina game. He ran hard in that Kansas City game. He got injured in that game. He did not play in the Ravens game, which was the preseason finale, and he got shot the next day. So he showed us glimpses, but we didn't get to see it in the regular season. And a lot of us just, oh, okay, that's Brian Robinson right there. Okay, we know what to expect. Not explosive, not dynamic, not really going to hurt you out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Bullshit. And I told y'all that. I said, Brian Robinson can catch. Brian Robinson is a little bit more nifty than you think, and he's got a little bit more explosiveness than we saw last year. We haven't seen the real Brian Robinson. And he came to the podium on Friday, and he said, bro, it's a night and day difference from where I am now and where I was last year. I was never 100% last year. Never. At no point last year did you see the real Brian Robinson. And I'm like, talk your shit, because that's what I'm trying to tell everybody else. And he's catching the ball. You know what everybody keeps saying? how impressed they are with Brian Robinson, the pass catcher. Brian Robinson's like, look, I know they're going to try to take me off the field. They want to get Antonio Gibson involved in different ways and stuff like that. They don't have to. Look, I'm not trying to come off the field. I can catch it. I can pass protect. You know I can run the rock. So I'm trying to do everything. Whatever they want me to do, that's what I'm going to do. But I'm telling y'all, I can do it all. I'm telling y'all right now, and I've been telling y'all this all offseason, look the hell out for Brian Robinson. Everybody want to talk about Chris Rodriguez and how many touches he's going to get. F Chris Rodriguez, and I rock with him. He's a member of the family. But I'm telling y'all, who y'all need to be talking about is B-Rob. Antonio Gibson going into a contract year. You want to see how they're going to use him, and I think they're going to get creative with Gibby, right? Look out for Brian Robinson. I'm just going to keep telling y'all this over and over because I'm telling y'all he's a different breed. He's built different, he's wired different, and he is different. He's not a home run threat, but I'm telling you, he's capable of hitting triples and doubles consistently. You've been warned. All right? You've been warned. All right? So it was. I loved what he was saying. I love his approach. Then you had Ron Rivera from the 28th. And Ron talked about a couple of things. One of them garnered a ton of attention. I'll save that for the latter half of this discussion. But, Ron talked about appreciating the fans and the energy that they were bringing and how they had showed up the first couple of days. And he wanted to see what the turnout would be for Saturday because he was expecting a large turnout. And there was. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. But, he was really, really complimenting the fans. And there's been a lot of that going on. And you see what's going on here, right? You see what they're trying to do. They're trying to win the fans back. And he's going with the old Joe Gibbs method, right? Joe would always implore the fans to come out. We can't do it without you. We need all 58,000 or whatever that number was, RFK hell. We need all of y'all out there. We can't do it without y'all. And that's kind of the approach Ron is taking this offseason. It's the right approach, And the thing that garnered a ton of attention that Ron talked about. So he was asked about the Redskins name and the prevalence of it. Of late, people have been using that name and been a lot more comfortable because, that name kind of became taboo. People are acting all scared as if you can't say the word Redskins. Like, we've been saying that shit for over 80 years. All of a sudden now it's no longer the team's name and it's taboo. You can't say it. Like, it seemed like soon as Dan left, people became more comfortable using the name Redskins. And you've been hearing it a lot. And Ron said, look, you can't ignore it. A lot of the guys that brought glory to Washington are back in the building. They're coming around more often. And, you talk about Joe Gibbs and you talk about some of these legends that have been around, and you can't help but bring up the Redskins name and all of the glory that is attached to those years. Like, you can't run away from that. And Ron went out of his way to say, hey, look, we talk about this with the utmost respect for the Native Americans and, those who, feel a little disrespected. We say this with the utmost respect, but it's a name that you can't run from. And there were some people who took that as, hey, they're going to bring it back. Let me stop you right there. That I can assure you that name is not coming back. Even if Josh Harris wanted to bring it back, from a business standpoint, it ain't happening. It's not feasible. Okay, so there's no turning back on that situation. But that was the big takeaway. That was a big topic of discussion after Friday. So you move on to the 29th, which was Saturday. And the first thing that jumps out from Saturday's practice. So I think there was a like a theme to Saturday's practice, and it was around the entire NFL. And I watched like this 10-minute segment, and probably a lot of you have as well, where Tim Hasselbeck, Louis Riddick, and Dan Orlovsky, and it was one more guy on that set, and I think there was a female there as well. But they spent about, I'd say, roughly 8 to 10 minutes talking about Washington, Sam Howell in particular, but also just the rest of the team. Chase Young, Adam Schefter was on the set as well, because the topic of Chase Young being traded came up. All of that good stuff. So I told you I was taking in a ton of Commander stuff over the weekend. So I think it was like back to football weekend or something. There was a theme around the NFL. And Saturday was that day for the entire league. And so Washington, they were expecting a huge turnout. I can't speak for what other teams around the league had in terms of attendance to this thing, but Washington had over 10,000 fans at practice on Saturday, which is insane. Okay, insane for a practice. Generally, you don't get that kind of turnout unless you're on the field for Fan Appreciation Day at the stadium. That's when you get that kind of a turnout, but not for a practice at the practice facility, on the practice fields. That's rare. So that right there in itself is crazy. Seeing people wait for school buses to pick them up, to take them to the practice field, like this was crazy to me. So there's a real buzz and excitement right now. That's the first thing that jumped out at me from Saturday's practice is how real the excitement is. Chase Young was using the crowd, amping them up to try to make it loud during the field goal kicking session. Both kickers made all 4 of their kicks. So that's a nice start to the competition. Again, Sly has to just do his job, and he's going to be the kicker. It's his job to lose, but or as Ron likes to say, it's his job to win. But he's in the driver's seat. If he doesn't make any mistakes, he'll be the kicker for this team to start off the season. But the crowd turnout was just phenomenal. So now I want to get into the specifics of Saturday. And on Saturday, we heard from Ron Rivera, Andrew Wiley, and Cody Barton. And I'm going to get to those interviews first, and then we're going to talk about some of the particulars from Saturday's practice. Start with the players. So Andrew Wiley talked about, obviously, EB system, being familiar, but more so getting that continuity that you need up front on the offensive line. He's like, yeah, we're building that every single day. He's like, Sam Cosmi is one of my favorite guys on the team. And, they're establishing a rapport with one another because they're playing right next to each other. So they have to play off of one another. So he's establishing that continuity with Sam. They're getting comfortable with one another. And like Wiley said, these pads are about to go on. We're really going to get a real sense and feel for what's going on. And he said, look, we're getting some of the best training you can get in the NFL in training camp by going up against this defensive line every single day. And you see it in college, right? We don't talk about this enough in the NFL, but you see it in college. You want to know why? Yep, these teams, Ohio State, and you want to know why Clemson, you want to know why Alabama and Georgia and these teams sent 7-8 guys in the first or second round of the draft. And when it's all said and done, 10, 11 players, 12 players are getting drafted from these schools. It's because the iron sharpens iron. And you're seeing a scenario in which I'm going up against a first-round pick wide receiver, and it's making me better as a corner. In 2 years, I'm going to be a first-round pick because I was going up against a first-round pick wide receiver for the last, 2 years. He graduates, goes to the NFL. Now I'm the man on campus, and I'm trying to lock it down. But they bring in another wide receiver that's a 5-star, and he's continuing to help me get better, right? You see that. You want to know why Georgia's offensive line is so good? Because their defensive line is so damn good, and they're going up against each other. So when you get into the game, this ain't nothing because you're not better than the dude I'm going up against in practice every day. And so Andrew Wiley's like, bro, you're not going to find many defensive lines in the league that are better than what we have from, left to right across the board. Even the backups come in and these dudes are really solid, right? So he's like, we're getting some of the best practice you can get, and it's only going to get better once the pads get on. So Andrew Wiley is a guy that I told you this when we got him. He's not a game changer by any stretch of the imagination. But what he is a hell of a competitor, right? He's a dude that I would take into battle with me because I know Andrew Wiley is going to have my back. He's going to talk that talk, and he's going to walk that walk. So, yeah, it's going to be a couple of mistakes. And I feel the same way about Charles Leno. Like, I know y'all don't love Charles Leno, and you can upgrade over Leno, and we will eventually, and we will have to do the same thing with Andrew Wiley eventually as well. However, I don't mind Charles Leno. Like, I know he's going to give me everything he's got, and he's not a turnstile like y'all try to make him. Just like y'all tried to make Kendall Fuller out to be this bum. These guys aren't trash. They may not be elite, but they're really good football players. I feel the same way about Andrew Wiley. So, I thought he was really candid about, the work that's being put in and how they have to continue to grow on that offensive line, but they're taking strides in the right direction. Cody Barton, I'm not the biggest Cody Barton fan. All right, you guys know that. I was not a fan of Cole Holcomb not being re-signed, especially for the money that he ultimately got in Pittsburgh and the type of deal he got with the Steelers. However, I will say this. I don't think there's been a single linebacker yet that has been here since we've configured this defensive line, rather. I don't think that there has been a linebacker that has taken full advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you to make plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage yet. I don't think there has been a guy that has done that yet. And he strikes me intellectually as the guy that may have the best opportunity. We've seen the tackle numbers from him last year in Seattle, the 1 year that he was the starter and got a chance to play. Seahawks fans, and I've told you, this is what worries me. Seahawks fans are like, yo, y'all can have him. He ain't all that. He's soft. He doesn't get off of blocks. If you keep him clean, he's a problem. Well, I think we can keep him clean here is what I'm insinuating. And so I haven't seen a linebacker, Cole Holcomb, Jamin Davis, John Bostic, et cetera, David Mayo. And I think Mayo is the most aggressive linebacker that we have in the run game. He's the one that will come down and hit you on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, coincidentally enough. And I think Barton might be one of those types of guys. When he keeps talking about gap fits and trying to figure out how to play off of the blocks of the guys in front of him, he's still learning that. How is Duron going to attack this gap? How is John going to attack this double team? Is he going to go around it? Is he just going to take it on? Am I going to be able to run straight into that gap? Am I going to have to play behind his block? Like, I'm still trying to figure out these gap fits and how everybody plays in front of me. And the sooner we can get on the same page there, the better I'll be able to play and the faster I'll be able to play. I haven't heard that from any other linebacker. That gets me excited because he understands if these guys up front are taking on these blocks, I got to make a play. I'm not looking to stand and wait for the action to come to me. I got to go make something happen. Too often, the linebackers we've had are too tentative. They don't want to make a mistake. They won't shoot their gun. And we don't get those tackles for loss. 3-yard gain. It's a 2-yard gain. F that. I'm not saying Cody Barton's going to come in here and change the game, but I like where his head is at. And listening to him talk, very thoughtful guy with answers that are very, very indicative of a guy that's hypercritical of everything going on around him and what he needs to do to be at his best. And he understands he's got some dogs in front of him. And if I utilize these dogs the right way, I'm going to eat and eat well. So I got my eye on Cody Barton. I'm not sold yet, but I like what he's saying. Okay. So that was from the 29th on Saturday. So let's get into the particulars of Saturday's practice. So Sam threw 2 interceptions, the first 2 interceptions of camp for Sam Howell. So we got 3 days into camp, or 4 rather, days into camp before he finally threw his first pick. And he threw a pick to Forbes, and he threw a pick to Cam Curl. All right. And so there was a lot made of that, and you know how the fan base can be. And I read the perfect tweet from someone. I don't know who it was from, but I told you I was taking in a lot of Washington content everywhere. And somebody here, to me, crafted the best tweet I'd seen when it came to this topic in particular, which was, our fan base is weird. Because if the defense goes out and dominates, oh my God, Sam Howell sucks, this, that, and the third, we're going to be 5-12. If Sam Howell goes out and has a great day, oh, this defense sucks, you know, we're going to regress, we're going to be 5-12. You know, like, there's a happy medium, which is what I always try to preach to y'all. Like, you can't get so far on one end of the spectrum or the other that you lose sight of what this is supposed to be. There's supposed to be a give and take at camp. And I've even went as far to continue to reiterate to you guys, there are going to be days where Sam Howell and this offense just flat out struggles. Why? Because it's a new system, a lot of moving parts. Offensive line is still trying to gel and mesh together. There's a lot going on, more so on the offensive side than there is the defensive side. Okay? The defense is going into year 4 of Jack. They're in year 2 in particular of this zone match scheme that they were playing. Last year was the first year, so they're even more comfortable with the zone match that they were doing last year. So they should be, for all intents and purposes, really comfortable defensively. The offense is trying to adapt and adjust, and there are going to be moments where they're able to make plays, and there are going to be moments when the defense makes plays. And you can't get too high or get too low because of a rough day for the offense or a great day for the offense. You can't get too high or too low. There's supposed to be both going on. And so far, it's been that way. More so the defense having its way, but the offense has had its fair share of plays too, right? So Sam threw 2 picks. It's going to happen. All right. I hope you guys don't think Sam's going to go out and throw 27 touchdowns and no interceptions. He's going to throw picks, guys. All right. And gals. But the biggest takeaway from practice on Saturday is it was the first time that Chris Paul got reps with the first team offensive line. So it's the first time that Sadiq Charles and Chris Paul were rotating in and out of that left guard spot. And Chris Paul was getting real meaningful reps with the ones, going up against Duron, going up against Jonathan Allen, and getting some of those reps against a higher level of competition. They want to throw him out there, see how he handles that consistently, put that film on tape so they can study and see who gives them the best opportunity. It's about to get real now, okay? So it started on Saturday. They did the same thing today at practice, platooning those 2 in, getting Chris Paul reps with the ones, getting Sadiq Charles reps with the ones, and seeing how it goes. And again, that's going to continue throughout the course of this week as the pads go on. And it's going to continue probably until we get to the preseason, honestly. And I think by the time we get to preseason game number 1, they're going to have their minds made up if someone is able to take that step and separate himself from the other. If they're still like right with each other and they really don't know yet, you may see a situation where you're going to start the preseason game 1, you're going to start preseason game number 2, and we'll go about it that way, right? But we'll see what happens. But now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of that left guard battle. All right. So that was the biggest takeaway from the 29th, which was practice on Saturday, is that Sadiq Charles and Chris Paul are now splitting some of those reps up with the first team offensive line. And so now they're going to be able to assess what's going on a little bit more there. So then you get to today's practice. All right. So, and we heard from Ron Rivera, Terry McLaurin, Montez Sweat. And obviously I talked about the Jamin Davis, situation with the reckless driving and the speeding, reckless speeding. situation. So we've already talked about that. So we really don't need to beat that situation dead. Rivera talked about the maturity. That was his big message today, the maturity. And I don't know about you, but I've gotten this sense that the maturity level is much greater this year, because you don't hear, like, I didn't even like that one of the reporters, I felt like he was putting words in Cam Curl's mouth, because Cam Curl never said that we were going to be a top 5 defense. They asked him what were some of the aspirations that they had. And one of the things he said was to continue to be a top 5 defense. He didn't say we're going to be a top 5 defense. Like, he wasn't making a declaration or a statement. And somebody ran to Ron with that today. One of those reporters ran to Ron today and said, Cam Curl said this team's going to be a top 5 defense. That's not what he said. And that's why players sometimes are hesitant to say things, because reporters go and they run with it and they phrase it the wrong way. And it's funny because when you're on Twitter, and these reporters get upset when people take their words and twist them around and put words in their mouth. But you do it all the time to these players. And so you got to be really specific on how you say things, how you phrase things. But that's nor here nor there. Ron was like, I don't mind the confidence. I want these guys to be confident. There's a definitely a level of maturity that is taking over this team that we didn't have 2 years ago, and you see it in the preparation. You see it with the way these guys work, and you see it with the mindset that they come out with and how they approach each and every single day, stacking good days on top of each other. And, that's what we're looking for, a model of consistency, guys coming out here and doing it the right way day after day after day. And so he said it's a big difference between what it was in 2021, after the 2020 season, and everybody kind of smelling themselves, and Ron trying to tell everybody, hey, we not mature. They over here acting like they shit don't stink. And, that was the year Tez and Young were talking about setting a record for most sacks by a teammate tandem. And, we were out of pocket that year, and it showed. I don't get the sense that that's what's happening this year. So Ron spoke about the maturity level. Ron talked about quarterbacks, and he said, look, we've had a couple of rough days, and it's been up and down, and that's what you expect. But he said it's been all the quarterbacks. Talked about certain situations with Sam and how Sam's reading something out, and he's like, why didn't you go here with the ball? He's like, I knew I had that. I wanted to see if I could get that. I know that's there. And Ron's like, as long as you know, right? Like, this is the time to try shit. Ron has always said, if you're going to try something, now's the time to do it. But we just want to make sure you know that this is the way you're supposed to read this out. And if that's open, you take that. Now if they take, and in Sam's mind, he's saying, I know that's there. With the coverage, based off the coverage they're playing, I know that's there. I ain't worried about that. I want to see if I can get that. Because if I catch somebody sleeping in the game, that's a 7-yard gain, and y'all want that. That's what y'all drew it up to get, the 7 yards on first down, right? But if I can get 27 over here because they sleeping backside, I want that instead, because there are routes and there are combinations and there are plays that based off of alignment, based off of what the defense is doing, I'm not going to get the ball. When they call this play, I generally don't get the ball. But you get a quarterback that sees the field differently, who has a stronger arm, who's willing to try things, you never get the ball because the guy that normally is running the offense may not have a strong enough arm to get it to you, or not even try that, or he's just going to do the right thing, which is get the ball to the, check down and to this underneath route quickly and get the 5 yards. You get a baller, he might say, nah, to hell with that. I know that's there, but I'm going to get this 25-yarder down the seam. So Ron was like, I just need to make sure that was the first read, and he was open. And he was like, yeah, no, I already knew that. So I like the fact that they're kind of talking those things out. I like that Sam is experimenting, but also within the framework of the offense, letting them know, hey, I got this. Be good, right? So everything is going, I think it's moving at a good rate of speed. This week is going to be a big week because the pads come on. And as you get into, this full week of practice with the pads on and the intensity ramps up, next week, you're playing a preseason game, right? So for all intents and purposes, you're getting this week of work. You're going to see the Ravens the week thereafter, right? And you're going to get a real sense of how this is going to work. So this is big. So I like what we're seeing, from Sam. They're going to be mistakes, but continue to make throws. And there's some things he's going to have to adjust, and he'll continue to work through those things. This is what camp is for. He's been missing a lot of passes high. Bring some of those passes down, throw with a little bit more touch. These are things that'll continue to come as he gets more and more reps within the scheme, but also with these players. So, and Terry talked about that. Speaking of Terry, let's go to Terry. Terry talked about that, the depth of routes, because it's a different offense. It's not like they're in Scott Turner's offense going into year 4, like the defense is going into year 4 Jack's scheme. This is a brand new offense, not just for Sam Howell, for everybody. So the depths of these routes are different, and so it's an adjustment period for everyone. So Sam may be throwing the ball here, and he's thinking the receiver's going to be there, and that receiver takes one more step out, and all of a sudden, Sam's throwing it at 7, that receiver goes to 8 or 9, that's an incomplete pass, or it's an interception, or it's a tip pass, So these are the things you're ironing out during training camp. So Terry talked about that, getting on the same page, but Terry was very complimentary of Sam. And he's like, yo, I think we got our franchise quarterback for the future. Like, I believe in this dude. Saw him last year, saw the way he played, how he carried himself. And I really think this guy has what it takes to lead us where we ultimately want to go. And I think, it was important for Sam to show that leadership over the summer, getting the guys together, getting them out there to Florida, working out with them, taking them to dinner, building that rapport with them, working on timing and things of that nature. That's what you see a lot of these elite quarterbacks doing with their guys, getting in that extra time. Sam did that over the summer, and I think it's going to benefit him and the rest of this group when it's all said and done. So, Terry's like, yo, I've had 5 different quarterbacks in 5 years, right? I've had 5 different starting quarterbacks. 2019 was Case Keenum. 2020 was Dwayne Haskins. 2021 was Ryan Fitzpatrick. 2022 was Carson Wentz, and now it's going to be Sam Howell. He's had 5 different starting quarterbacks in 5 years, and a lot more in between. Not just the guy that started the season. Is there's Heineke's taken over. There's been what's my man? Garrett Gilbert has had a start in there. Alex Smith, Kyle Allen. Like, there's been so many other guys throughout that journey that he's been on. I mean, especially that. No, I wouldn't say that. 19 wasn't as bad. It was just pretty much Keenum and Dwayne for the most part in 19. I'm thinking about 18, where it was about 18 different quarterbacks that played. So it's been rough for Terry. And he said, after year 2, I kind of realized, this is what it is. I don't want him normalizing the bullshit that we've put him through at quarterback. I don't want him to think that that's normal, because it's not. We got to find this dude a franchise QB to get him the ball so that he can get comfortable with somebody and do the damage that these other dudes around the league are doing, because they've got, continuity with a quarterback that they've played with for multiple years. Terry deserves that. So I'm hoping that this is what transpires this year, and that Sam establishes himself, and then they can start kind of building that rapport with one another. And, I kind of felt like there was a little bit of that with Heineke, where Heineke would just look for Terry. That's what you want And Terry said, that's not lost on me. I relish this role that I've been given, and I don't take it lightly of being, one of the leaders of this team. But more importantly, I want to be that workhorse. I want to be the guy that is 3rd and 7 and they looking to me. And all the receivers want that. Jahan wants that. Curtis wants that. Everybody want to eat. But Terry's like, I want to be the one to set the table, And in order to do that, I got to get opportunities. And I think me and Sam are building that rapport right now. And as that continues to grow, we're going to become a huge problem. And I was just, that shot that I have for the thumbnail, scary hours. I really, truly believe it's scary hours. When you look at that group, you saw that picture, everybody that was in that photo. That's Jahan, that's Terry, that's Curtis, that's Logan, that's Brian Robinson and Sam Howell. You look at that photo, that group right there that I just listed has a chance to be among the most dangerous in the NFL this year, which that's about to take me to one of my biggest takeaways. We'll get there. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. But I'm telling you right now, if everybody's healthy, and most importantly, this offensive line is able to sustain itself and be a rock for us, we got the weapons. We have the weapons. You know how Arby's has the meats? Arby's, we have the meats. Washington, we have the weapons. All right? It's real out here in the field. Scary, scary hours, man. Really spooky shit. It can be really scary for some teams out here, especially in the NFC East. It could get really, really dark real quick messing around with this offense we can put on the field. Anyway, Montez Sweat spoke today, and always good to hear from Tez. He's getting more comfortable too. I thought he had a good presser today. And they tried to put him in that 2021 box a couple times to get him to admit that him and Tez were over the top and immature in 2021. And Tez he wasn't going to fall for that banana in the tailpipe. He wasn't going to fall into that trap. Good for him. But they continuously tried to get him to say, yeah, man, we were immature after 2020. That 2021 offseason, we were talking, we were braggadocious, and caught up with us. That just didn't happen. In his mind, he's like, look, shit happened. It happened the way that it happened. I broke my jaw. My brother got killed. There was a lot of stuff going on in his life. Obviously, Chase didn't have the greatest start to the season. He tears his knee up. It is what it is, right? But we bat like cook crack. He talked about going to Ohio State. He was like, look, that was weird, man. Going to a different campus and working out. But he's like, Coach Larry Johnson was awesome. And he gave us a lot of tools that we came back with that we are utilizing right now. And he was like, I really think that that's going to, prove to be huge for us. They asked him a lot of Chase Young questions. He even laughed one time because it's true. And the person framed it. I want to say it was Ben Standard that framed it this way. We always asking you about Chase. At some point, and I told y'all, at some point you get tired of answering questions about another man. Like, I'm sitting here. Do you have questions about me? Or are you going to ask me a bunch of questions about Chase? Because he got at least 3 or 4 Chase Young questions today. But that's going to be natural because Chase is getting back. That's his best friend on the team. They're around each other often. So they want to know, what have you seen, with Chase and this, that, and the third. Tez was like, look, Chase is a dog, and I expect him to come back and do what he need to do. And, they asked him the contract question, and he answered that beautifully. Like, look, I seen what these other dudes did, and they got taken care of. So as far as I'm concerned, I just got to go out here, take care of business, and the rest will take care of itself. So you can't help but love the mindset of this team right now, man. Like, when I listen to everybody talk, they all on one string, right? It ain't a whole bunch of people outside of the mix. We all streamline right here. Like, they all locked in. And again, coach speak, and you hear that in some of the players like Cam Curl, a lot of him talking about starting fast and getting turnovers. That directly comes from the coaching staff. That's the message that they're pumping, boom, over and over, over and over, over and over, pounding that into their heads. But when you hear these players talk about, the growth and what this season represents, I know I don't want to plant a seed with y'all because y'all be getting mad at me when I be hyping y'all up and I be putting the battery in y'all back sometimes. And that's not by design. It's just my excitement. I'm a fan. At the end of the day, I'm just like you, right? We are no different than one another. The only difference is I'm in front of a camera talking to y'all and y'all watching. That's the only difference. I'm on the other side of the camera, okay? I'm a fan just like you, okay? So you might be more excited about something than I am, but at the end of the day, we're all fans. I'm telling you how I feel, not how you feel, how I feel. You don't have to feel the way that I feel, okay? So I'll just put that disclaimer out there. This, and I've said this before, you can kill me all you want. I'm fine with that. This feels different, okay? All of it. From Snyder no longer being here, from the fans being, like Terry said, I have never seen that many fans turn out for a practice in my 5 years being here. Never. Nothing even remotely close to what they saw on Saturday. I've never seen that. He said, the energy we're getting from the fans, I've never had that since I was drafted here. This is different. That's not me saying that. That's the players. That's a guy that's been here for 5 years saying, this is different. Jonathan Allen will tell you, this is different, bro. This hits different. And they all know why. No one's going to really go out and say it. But we all know why. They all know why. Now there's an extra added amount of pressure on these players. And Rivera's going to continue to beat this point. I mean, he's going to hammer this shit home over and over again. We have an obligation. We have a duty to uphold now. The fans are coming back. And I thought Rivera had a nice little moment on the mic on Saturday when he thanked the fans. And he said, y'all were always here. Y'all never left. Y'all had y'all reasons why y'all weren't here physically, but in spirit, y'all were always here. But y'all had y'all reasons to not be here physically. Well, that's all done now. And we glad that y'all back. And we're going to give y'all a reason to keep coming back. Ron understands what this place can be. When Ron first got the job, he said, look, RFK Stadium was the hardest place to play football. These fans were rabid. There was no place like RFK. I want to restore that here. If they win this year, they are well on their way to doing that. With how excited this fan base is right now, they got a chance to turn FedEx into a real home field advantage again. They got to start fast, though. And it can't just be destroying Arizona. That place is going to be a madhouse in week 1. Okay? It can't just be destroying Arizona in week 1 and then you go on the road week 2, get your ass kicked, come back and get your ass kicked by Buffalo. You rake back where you started at. You got to come and you got to start the season off fast. He knows that. They've been preaching that. We'll see if they execute that. But I think Tez understands this is the year. Like, he's got to be in that Duron Payne frame of mind. And I love this mindset. This is a different approach for him because he was the one that was throwing out numbers that year when they talked about, setting a new record and stuff like that. And he was throwing out specific numbers. And so I told you they were trying to put him in that 2021 box and Tez just wasn't going for it. He's like, nah, get me out of that box. Not in there. They asked him, does he go into the season with a specific number that he's trying to obtain, or is he just going to go out and just play ball, let it happen, whatever happens, happens? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I used to put numbers, like certain expectations that I wanted for the season. I don't do that no more. I'm just going out and I'm just going to play ball, and I'm going to just let it happen. And that's how it's supposed to be, organically. If you play ball and you go out and you make plays, you're going to hit a bunch of milestones, which is going to give you more money because you got all these clauses in your contract, X amount of sacks, X amount of forced fumbles, X amount of tackles, X, Y, Z, snaps played, all of this stuff. You get all these different bonuses that you hit. It'll come. You make plays, trust me, the bread will follow. So he's in the right frame of mind, man. I love where we're at. So let's get to my biggest takeaways from the first 5 days of camp. All right. So I got a 5-piece for y'all. And I'll go in the order of the importance, I feel like. And really, only the last one is the one that's the most important. The rest of them, I think they're equally as important. So let's start with this takeaway from the first week. In the first 5 days, really, as I'm counting today's practice as well. Logan Thomas is back. That's the first takeaway. We got really nothing out of the tight end position last year. And again, I don't think it was a true representation of the tight end position just not being good. I think that was really the fault of the offensive coordinator, Scott Turner, for not making a concerted effort to get the tight ends involved. And it could have been, some of that could have been the quarterbacks just not looking for the tight ends. But I think it was more of the, play caller not making a concerted effort to get the tight ends involved. So Logan Thomas being back is huge because what he provides us is a safety blanket for the quarterback. He's such a big target and he's got such reliable hands. When Logan Thomas is in his bag, it changes this offense drastically. I thought we were really dangerous at times in 2020 when Logan Thomas, think about that Steelers game. We don't win that game without Logan Thomas. He was huge in that game. Think about the Lions comeback and some of the plays Logan made in that game. And hell, even the Lions game last year when we were down big and some of the plays Logan made in that game. So I think a healthy Logan Thomas goes a long way in really altering how you can defend this football team, because last year you just had to worry about the receivers. You didn't really have to worry about the middle of the football field, the tight ends, or any of that. Logan Thomas healthy puts pressure on you to have to defend the middle of the football field. And he gives you that size in the red zone. He was a huge red zone target in that first year. Even in 2021 to an extent before he got injured. We didn't have that last year. And again, that was not his doing. That was offensive coordinator Scott Turner's doing. So Logan Thomas being back is huge for this offense. It just makes us that much more scary to have to defend. The next big takeaway, Brian Robinson will be a problem this year. I've already alluded to that. So I'm not going to continue to beat the point home and hammer it home, because I've already told y'all that when I talked about what Brian Robinson had to say on Friday. I just want to make sure that y'all know where I stand on this. I've been talking about it all offseason anyway, so it's not new news to you, but I just felt the need to reiterate that one more time. This is going to be a big year for Brian Robinson. And at some point, I'm going to try to put some numbers to it, because I expect him to go off. And if he's healthy for 17 games, I expect this to be a massive year for Brian Robinson. Really, seriously. Because I told y'all, this dude has another level that he can get to that we didn't see last year, that he didn't even come close to. The next big takeaway, we're going short and quick from a passing standpoint. We're going short and quick. That ball's going to come out quickly. You go watch Kansas City's offense, and we think about the explosive nature of that offense. And you think about Tyreek Hill and all the big plays that he made. But over the last 2 years in particular, when teams started to play that cover 2 shell over the top, that 2 deep shell, right? Keeping everything in front of them and forcing Mahomes to have to take it, check it down and take what the defense was giving you, them rather. You saw that quick passing game. You saw Mahomes get it out of his hands quickly. You see Travis Kelce run 5 yards, turn around, Mahomes get it to him on 3rd and 4. Or you see Travis Kelce run a little option route, shake free, and Mahomes get it to him on 3rd and 7 for 8, right? You see him get the ball to Valdez-Scantling on a quick slant, boat, and hit him and let him run for a little bit. You see him get the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster on a quick spot route, run a hitch, 5 yards, stop, bow, hit him, right? You see them running deeper routes just to clear it out for the running back out of the backfield and throw a swing route to the running back. And it's like a form of a screen, right? You see all of those things in that offense when you watch them. And you see that that's going to be a huge part of what we do here. But just as much as we're going to go short and quick, we're going to take shots down the field. We're going to be explosive on offense. And we got the weapons to do it. We have the speed. Diami can run. Jahan can run. Terry can run. It's been a long time since we've been able to say, hey, we got speed. Curtis can run, and we don't even send him deep often. That might change this year. Okay? We got 4 legitimate dudes who are burners. 4 legitimate dudes that can run. 2 of them are sub 4.4. The other are sub 4.5. All our guys are 4.4 dudes or better or faster. So we're going to take shots down the field as well. And don't discount, a guy like Antonio Gibson. And Ron talked about this at the presser today. A guy like Antonio is gonna line up everywhere, and they're gonna get back to some of that background he had at Memphis where he was a receiver. They're gonna line him up everywhere. He said, we're gonna kind of use him like Curtis last year. So look for Antonio that's another 4.3 dude right there, right? We got speed, man. And I don't think we're going to be afraid to use it this year because we got a quarterback. And one of the things Terry said, he said, man, Sam throws a hell of a deep ball. That shit is beautiful. He's like, that's the thing right now that I'm most excited about are the opportunities down the field because Sam throws a beautiful deep ball. And I've heard multiple guys say that. Obviously, Diami knows about that deep ball. He's talked about it. Terry talked about it. And Jahan referenced it as well. Like, we're going to get opportunities down the field. And Sam throws a gorgeous deep ball. So I'm looking forward to those opportunities down the field to get explosives. All right. So the next takeaway rather, speed and flexibility on defense this year will be noticeable. I can't recall a Washington defense, and this is going all the way back to like 05, maybe 04. I think that was our most dominant year defensively. I don't know if I can recall a defense this fast in Washington from top to bottom. See, last year, we didn't have the defensive speed in the secondary. We had it everywhere else. D-line, linebackers, they could all run. We didn't have it in the back end, though, necessarily. The drafting of Emmanuel Forbes and Quan Martin with your first 2 picks in the draft this year, it didn't just represent taking the ball away. That was a huge part of why they drafted both of those players, by the way. That's probably the number one reason both of those guys got drafted. It's because both of those guys are playmakers and can take it away. And that is one of the biggest points of emphasis on the defensive side of football this year. We got to take it away. We were the best 3rd down defense in football last year. So we have no problems getting off the field. But you're getting off the field, and then the punter's kicking it 55 yards, and now your offense has to go 83 yards for a touchdown. And that's cool because you're giving them a shot. But it'd be much better if you forced a fumble or you intercepted the ball, and instead of starting that drive at your own 24-yard line, you're starting it at midfield. Or you're starting it at the plus 42-yard line. That's a huge difference. So part of the reason they drafted those 2 players is because of the turnover factor. But another reason is those guys add speed to the secondary. A lot of Washington fans, and speed isn't everything, I'm fully aware. But a lot of Washington fans were upset, were disappointed in the fact that we didn't go aggressively after Branch, the Alabama nickel, right? Brian Branch. And he was available. He was sitting right there. If we wanted him, we could have moved up. If we wanted him bad enough, he was right there. And we didn't. And I think it's because while he's a dynamic, blitzer, and he's multifaceted and all the things, he wasn't fast enough for them. They looked at Quan Martin, they said, he can do everything Brian Branch can do, but in a faster body, a bigger body, a faster body that is more capable of covering more space on the football field. And it could prove to be a mistake. But I think another part of the offseason was, hey, we need to get faster on defense. Because that's the wave of the NFL. Offenses are getting faster. The only way to combat that isn't to be more physical with them. They've changed all the rules, so you can't be overly physical and aggressive with the offense. They want more points through the NFL, not less. So the only way you're going to combat that is with speed of your own on defense. You know what the Kansas City Chiefs have done is they've built an offense that is so difficult to stop because, A, you got Patrick Mahomes, obviously, and then you got Travis Kelce. But they always surround those guys with speed, right? Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman. They just went out and got Kadarius Toney last year, traded for him. After drafting the kid from Western Michigan or Central Michigan. Why can't I remember his name? He can run too, right? Went out and got Valdez-Scantling, right? MVS. He's a burner, right? So they stay with speed on offense. Kelce is the key to everything. Like, he is what makes that offense go. And then they surround him with speed on the outsides because that dynamic ability pushes defenses back and allows Kelce the room to operate and work underneath. You want to crowd Kelce? I'm going over the top. You got to pick your poison, right? That's what we're trying to build here in Washington, right? That kind of an offense. But you know how you combat that? You know what the team that gives the Chiefs the most problems, and you've watched it. If you've watched football over the last 3 years, you know the team that gives them the most problems? It's always a family member. It's the Los Angeles Chargers. Why? Because the Chargers have done nothing but draft speed and more speed and more speed and more speed and more speed on defense. Because they said, you know what? Y'all want to have all these guys that can run? Well, we're going to draft this fast-ass linebacker. We're going to draft this former safety, convert him to linebacker. We're going to take this corner, and we're going to make sure he can run. We're going to take this, outside backer. We're going to make sure he can run. And we're going to put all these guys. We're going to get Duron James, make sure we're going to get all these athletes on defense. And we're going to make it tough on your ass because we can run just like your guys can run. And that's what Washington is building now. You can see it. And the flexibility. I know y'all don't like hearing the phrase positional flex, but it really is going to show itself on defense this year. When you see all of the different ways they can adjust to what other teams are trying to do. We got a guy for that. You've heard the saying, there's an app for that, right? We got a guy for that. Almost like back in the day with Monty Coleman, when teams wanted to try to, get creative with guys out of sick Monty Coleman on his ass. Monty could cover anybody out of the backfield. Monty was the secret weapon, right? Let Monty cover him. He can't outrun Monty. That's the kind of shit we got going on now. We got dudes for all types of situations, especially on the back end. We're interchangeable, man. It's going to be fun to watch. It really is. We got speed everywhere on defense. The biggest takeaway, and this is overarching, the biggest takeaway that I've had thus far in camp there's been a discussion, and I've been a part of this discussion, and I wasn't sure. Maybe the influence of the rest of the league might have finally gotten to Ron. And, you know, some of the times, there have been times where he's been in the game where somebody gets hurt from another team because they decided to play their starters in a situation that maybe didn't make a ton of sense. Whatever the case may be, we haven't had any scrimmages with other teams since Ron has gotten here. In the 3 years that Ron has been here previous to this year, we haven't had any scrimmages. So there was this prevailing thought that maybe, just maybe, and this is what we've seen around the league, when you scrimmage a team during the week, you don't necessarily play your starters in that game, right? And I don't know if there's an understanding between the two teams. Hey, I'm not going to play mine. You can play yours if you want, or I'm not going to play mine. You don't play yours. I don't know if there's like this unwritten rule that these coaches, you know, discuss what you're going to do, who you're going to put out on the field after practice. I know they discuss practice, like how we want to go about practice. Hey, we want to get some red zone work. All right, yeah. After we're done with that, we want to get a little bit of that 2-minute offense in. So, you know, so they script it out so it makes sense for both teams. So you're getting the work that you feel like you need. In the league, around the league, when you do that, you don't put your players out there for the game after you've done a week worth of work with a team scrimmaging. We're only practicing with the Ravens for 2 days. Not like we're practicing with them for 3-4 days. We're just practicing with them for 2 days. However, I had asked the question, are we going to play our starters at all? After listening to Ron talk these last, 4 times or so, especially the last 2 in particular, I have no doubt in my mind that the biggest takeaway is we will see this offense quite a bit in the preseason. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it in my mind. There was a question as to whether we would see them in that first preseason game at all with the scrimmage happening with the Ravens during the week. No, we're going to see the first team offense. The defense, they might be taking those guys out a little bit sooner because they feel like they got a better handle of the defense. We don't need to see them as much. You're going to see that offense because, one, if Sam's out there, the offensive line has to be out there. They're not going to put Sam out there with 2s and 3s on the offensive line. So if Sam is out there, the offensive line is going to be out there. If the offensive line and Sam is out there, well, he's going to give Sam weapons to throw the football. That means Terry and Jahan and Curtis and Diami and Logan, all those guys going to be out there. Brian Robinson probably going to be out there as well. So Sam needs to work. This offensive line needs to work. So Terry may not need the work. Diami or Jahan may not need the work. But Sam and the line do. So because they're out there, all of those other dudes going to be out there. So with this being the first year of EB's scheme here in Washington, and with all of the different wrinkles that they're putting in and all the work that needs to be done, we're going to see this offense without a doubt in my mind. The first 2 preseason games, we're going to see a lot of this offense. I wouldn't be shocked in that first preseason game, whether the Ravens put their starters out there defensively or not. I don't think Washington gives a shit. I think you're going to see this offense for at least the first quarter in the first preseason game. And I wouldn't be shocked if you didn't see them for the entire first half in the second preseason game. Now, I'll say this. The more success that they have, the less of them you see. So, hence, first preseason game, they go out and they march it down the field on a 10-play drive, and they cap it off with a 2-yard touchdown pass to Logan Thomas. They're done. All right? They've seen enough. They don't need to see him anymore. Second preseason game, they go out, they march down the field on the first possession, and it's a 9-play, 72-yard drive capped off with a 12-yard Curtis Samuel touchdown. Second drive to get the ball, it's a 62-yard drive that consisted of 7 plays, finished off with a 11-yard Brian Robinson run for a touchdown. They done. That might have only taken up a quarter and just a tad bit over a quarter, right? Spilled into the second quarter, and they might be done. Seen enough. It's just about how much work they get in. They might have a set amount of plays like, hey, we want y'all to run 20 plays. All right. And after you hit 20, we getting y'all out of there. Now, if you hit the 20 plays on 2 possessions, first possession is 11, the next possession's 8 plays, that's 19, y'all good. We've seen enough. Y'all don't need to go back out there for another possession. But if You don't get to, you don't get to 20 because you went 3 and out. You had a possession where you got 6 plays, but you had to punt there. That's 3 possessions. That's only 12 plays. They're like, nah, take your ass back out there again, right? For a 4th possession. So it just depends on the success of the drives that they're out there for. Well, we're going to see this offense. In my mind, there's no question that these boys are playing in the preseason. There was a question with the Ravens and the scrimmage. Maybe we're going to see them in that game. And there's only 3. Ron's not playing his starters in the 3rd preseason game. He's already set that precedence, right? We're not seeing him at all in the 3rd preseason game. So my question was, well, if we don't see him in preseason game number 3, we may not see him in preseason game number 1. Is the 2nd preseason game going to be the only? Nah, we're going to see them in the 1st preseason game and the 2nd preseason game. And I think we're going to see them enough in both of those games that we'll get a sense for what this football team will look like on the offensive side. They're not going to show us a ton, but we're going to get a feel for the offensive line. We're going to get a feel for the skill position. We're going to get a feel for Sam. And I think we're going to be pleased. Not necessarily with the results, but just pleased with how much they played in the preseason. There won't be this sense of, oh, they can't be ready for the regular season. They didn't play them in the preseason. You're not going to feel that way after these first 2 games. That's the biggest takeaway that I have. So now that we're all caught up to speed, because it was another rough day for the offense on Monday. They weren't their sharpest. Sam threw another pick. Cam Curl got another pick, his 2nd of the summer. So I love that Cam Curl is around the football, making plays. Khaleke Hudson had a strong day. He took those reps for Jamin Davis, who was out of practice today. And Khaleke Hudson had a nice pass breakup over the middle of the field, one-on-one with Logan Thomas, down by the red zone. So Khaleke Hudson, I'm telling y'all, and I said this earlier in the video, Khaleke Hudson is giving me Defoe vibes from last year. When we kept hearing about Defoe in the offseason, oh, he's killing it OTAs, oh, he's looking so sharp. And then we kept saying, oh, the pass ain't on, don't worry about it. Maybe, it's just the offseason. And it translated over into the camp and into the preseason. And by week 1, this man was taking critical snaps and ended up getting some of the biggest plays in that game. The forced fumble of Travis Etienne that forced them to miss that field goal because it was about 7 yards backwards on that fumble. And it was a chip shot field goal, but he barely missed it to the left. And those extra yards on that fumble came because of Defoe. He had a big pass breakup on a 3rd down in the back of the end zone in that Jacksonville game that forced him to have to settle for a field goal, or else it would have been another touchdown. And then he had the game-clinching interception. And you could see it right away. Damn, Defoe out here making plays. All that shit they've been talking about all offseason about how well he was playing and how much faster he was playing and how much more of an understanding of what they were asking him to do he had and how he wasn't thinking as much and just going out and playing and using his speed. I think you're going to see that same thing with Khaleke Hudson. Jamin Davis keep bullshitting around. He missed all the offseason, all the OTAs, nursing that injury that he had, coming back from the surgery, and Khaleke Hudson took all those reps. And he was building off of that momentum he had in week 18 when he got the game ball against Dallas, right? And he carried that into the offseason. It spilled over, and now Jamin is in here tripping, and Khaleke is getting these reps again. And Jack Del Rio has already spoken highly of Khaleke Hudson. Unsolicited, by the way. Nobody asked him about Khaleke. And he went out of his way to talk about the strides Khaleke Hudson has made. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. Got a super chat from Sonny Rawson. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Sonny writes, Lou out here with more takeaways than our whole D. I was weak when I first saw that one. I had to chuckle to myself. That was a good one. That was a really good one. Thank you for that super chat, Sonny Rawson. Virginia Slim, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, if Davis is sat down for an extended period of time, we're about to get several nasty globs of mayo. Not necessarily. Okay. I get where that is coming from, but I keep hearing the name Milo Eifler. Now, look, I don't have a David Mayo problem. I've already told you. I don't mind him being on the roster. I like him better than John Bostic because at least he serves a purpose. You put David Mayo in and you say, hey, go make a tackle around the line of scrimmage, he's going to do that. He's not afraid to stick his nose in there. He's not afraid to shoot a gap. If he's wrong, but he's going to shoot his gun. I can respect that. John Bostic would sit there and strife and do nothing, right? Where Mayo is a liability is in the pass game, which you don't want him in the game. And if you're a defense, you want to put in a personnel that makes them think that you're going to utilize the run so that they put him in the game so that you can take advantage of him being, slow of foot. But they know his weaknesses. I think they have enough guys to where he doesn't have to see the field. And look, Jamin Davis is going to be fine. He's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to be suspended or reprimanded by the league. Not yet, at least. And I don't think his situation will be resolved until the offseason. So he'll be fine. He'll be here. But we got enough depth at linebacker. I know that sounds weird. We didn't draft anybody. We didn't do anything major. I you know what? Quietly, I actually think I like Milo Eifler, right? Just enough that he's around, not actually wanting him on the field. But I think there may be something to this dude. They've had him around for 3 years now. 3 years. They got to see something in him, right? So between Khaleke Hudson, Cody Barton, Jamin Davis, and Milo Eifler, we should be fine at linebacker. Again, we've minimized this position to where it's not as big a part of this defense. So with all of the versatility we got on the back end, if you need to take one of those backers off the field and add in another safety, we can do that. That's why it's important that they got all those pieces. I think Percy Butler, and I keep talking about Percy Butler. Nobody keeps talking about Percy Butler except me. Percy Butler could make the same jump that Defoe made last year as a second-year player. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Another guy that you can add into the mix. If you're not comfortable with the linebackers, another guy you can add into the mix as a safety that can come down and be physical with some speed. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about that many globs of Mayo this year, but we'll see. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB video channel. Right. What's good, Lou? What's good, video channel? Hope the fam is well. Likewise. Thank you very much for the Reign of Terror series. Would you consider doing a recap of each season before the new one? I don't have a problem doing that. As a matter of fact, I wanted to go back and kind of put a bow on the Reign of Terror series with a live stream. And I may do that at some point this week just to put a bow on that one. But I have no problems recapping the season every year. I mean, that actually probably would be a fun exercise. So that's something that I could definitely add into the repertoire for sure, without question. The Phillies Ace 34. It's been a while, man. It's been a while. I can tell it's football time because now all of y'all coming out the woodworks. It's good to hear from y'all. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, would it be my guy, Louie T? Much respect to you in Washington, but the NFC East may have every team make it. I just hope Dallas is not invited. They stink. Good luck for how do you see Hurts progress more? I do. I mean, he's a problem now. Officially, Jalen Hurts is a problem. And the thing that he got last year that he didn't have before, that now he's got it and you can't take it away from him, is confidence. I told you that's the biggest thing in the NFL, especially with talented football players. A lot of times quarterbacks in particular. Like I look at a guy like Zach Wilson in New York with the Jets. It's not a lack of talent. He doesn't have any confidence. He stinks right now because he doesn't have confidence. Sam Darnold doesn't stink from a talent perspective. He just didn't have any confidence. And as your confidence grows in this league, if your talent still remains, if your confidence ever catches up to your talent, you become dangerous. You see that with quarterbacks sometimes as they get older in their careers and they start to play with more confidence. Why? Because they've always been talented enough. That's how you get to the league. That's how you stay in the league, is you got talent. You get more opportunities with talent as your confidence begins to rise. That's why you saw Ryan Fitzpatrick play some of the best football of his career later on in his career. Why? He's always had talent. That's how he got to the NFL. He just didn't have the confidence. You know, he started to see the field better. He started making more confident decisions. And you saw him play a little bit better. And so Jalen Hurts has confidence now. And I was hoping to be able to shake him, you know, because he's got talent. It's not like overwhelming talent, but he's got talent. But when you add the level of talent that he has with the confidence that he now has, he's a problem. He's a problem now, officially. So, yeah, I do see it. Frank McLaughlin, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. Y'all know what to do. Show Frankie baby some love. Glad to have you, Frank. Look forward to chopping it up with you. Welcome to the squad. Frank Mac. The Phillies Ace 34. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Phillies Ace 34 writes, Louie, always love and respect. You, my friend, Kelly Green is back. Do you see a split like last season? What do you project with our new coordinators? I saw the Kelly Greens. They look exactly the way I thought they would. Dope as hell. As far as a split with the Eagles, I don't know. We getting them once. I'm trying to be greedy and beat you twice. If we can get the first one in Philadelphia in week 3, we got a chance to get you twice. I don't think you win in the division again this year. I'm not saying you're going to have a down year. I wouldn't be shocked if you did, but I don't think you are. I just don't think you win in the division again. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to a split yet. We getting you once at least. So at a bare minimum, yeah, it's going to be a split. Y'all not sweeping us. If anybody gets swept, it's y'all. But again, we'll see what happens. As far as your coordinators are concerned, I'm actually intrigued by your situation. So I'm hearing that the offensive coordinator had a rapport already with Jalen Hurts. He's really comfortable with him, has been with him for quite a while. So I don't think it's going to be much of a drop off there, you know, but that's the part I'm looking at. You're going to be better defensively, I think, just off the strength of, you know, your boy not being there anymore and being in Arizona as the head coach. I think you're going to be better on defense because he sucked. I really wanted him to stay in Philadelphia another year, honestly speaking. So I think you may have a chance to be better defensively, or at least more aggressive. That's for sure. Not staying in soft zone coverage and letting teams eat you alive, or just playing man and just saying, hey, win. But I think your offense is what I'm really intrigued by, because I thought that your offensive coordinator, who is now in Indy, did a fantastic job with the offense, Shane Steichen. But everybody's telling me, oh, it's not going to be a big loss. The next man up is more than capable of filling those shoes. Shane Steichen ain't even do all that much. They try to, you know, really demean and minimize his role in the success. I'm not buying that shit. I want to see it. So I want to see what these coordinators looking like. Frank Matt, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Frank writes, thank you for being the newest member of the MOBB as well. Writes, aloha from Hawaii, Lou. Aloha, Frankie. I absolutely love the Reign of Terror series. You did a great job putting that together. I appreciate that. I really appreciate all of you who enjoyed that series. I enjoyed putting it together. And I didn't expect it to be what it turned into. And I didn't expect it to be as therapeutic, which is what I aimed for it to be, but I still didn't expect it to be as therapeutic as it ultimately ended up being. He said, you have a gift for telling the story. You should do another series like that again, but maybe highlight Washington greats. You know, there's so many different, you know, ways that I can branch off of that, to your point. And I may ultimately do something like that, you know, in the future. And so I thank you guys for all of those ideas, you know, because you really received that series so well. And it may prompt me to do something like that in the future. But thank you so much, Frank. Really appreciate that. Red Wing 01, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Red Wing 01 writes, something I've been meaning to ask. During the 2021 offseason, full of wide receivers, you said the guy you wanted was Corey Davis and you weren't high on Curtis. Would you still sign Davis if you could do it over? I would have still signed Corey Davis. Yeah, I would have. One, Corey Davis has been relatively healthy for the last 3 years, which Curtis has not. Well, this will be the third year, rather. The first 2 years, Corey Davis was relatively healthy. I can't say that he played in every single game, but he hasn't missed a ton of games. Curtis essentially missed the entire first season he was in Washington. And I really, truly felt like he would have been a better complement to Terry. You know, I love Curtis and what he brings to the table, though. And I always told you it wasn't a knock on Curtis. I just didn't think he would. This is why I love the role he's in now. They drafted Jahan Dotson. So there is, like, Curtis to me isn't a number 2 wide receiver. I've always been adamant about that. Corey Davis to me is a number 2 receiver in this league. And so I never viewed Curtis in that light. So I didn't love the move at the time because we didn't have a number 2. We were bringing Curtis in to be a number 2. Now with Jahan being here, Curtis is your third option. That's what he's supposed to be. And he's allowed as a third option. Like, you can't be a gadget guy as a number 2 option. Okay. That's reserved for 3 or later. Okay. My number 1 and number 2 receivers have to be legit NFL wide receivers. They got to be able to run the route tree, really do damage as a receiver. And I'm not saying Curtis can't. I've seen him evolve. He's gotten better. Remember, Curtis was more of a running back. In high school, he was a running back. At Ohio State, he was more of a running back than anything else. It wasn't until he got to the NFL that he really started to perfect his craft as a receiver. So he's still growing at that position. I wanted somebody more established. So my mindset didn't change. What has changed is our approach. We're no longer asking Curtis to be a number 2. He's a number 3. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Now in that role, Curtis Samuel is the best version of himself. And that's why I love him being here now. But when we signed him back in 2021, when it was just Terry and a bunch of, funny lookings and Cam Sims, I wasn't comfortable with that. Because I really think Corey Davis, if we would have brought him here, he would have had, and again, I don't really know, because look at the quarterback situation we've had. But I like to think he would have done some damage and he would have helped Terry out a little bit by being able to take some of that coverage away. Terry, literally, last year was the first year that other guys came in and took attention away from Terry. First season of his career was last year. So, yeah, I still would have gone with Corey Davis. But in the role we're asking Curtis to play now, he is perfect for it. I would take him now more than Corey Davis in the role that he's in now. But going back, knowing what I know now, I still would have taken Corey Davis if we don't have Jahan, which we didn't in 2021. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I get your rationale at the time. Davis was more of a natural 2 and Curtis more of a 3, but either way, I say it worked out. Logan really the forgotten man out there. That can make him dangerous. Absolutely. Because with all the weapons that we have, and you look at the way that we ran our offense last year, and if you're watching film on Washington, you really can't go off of last year's film other than to see what Jahan is doing individually, what Terry's doing individually, what Curtis is doing individually. But from a concept perspective, it's a totally different offense. But what you can see from watching the film last year is that we didn't involve the tight end. So like you said, he's the forgotten man. You got to go you really got to go all the way back to 2020 to see Logan Thomas really dominate games and be that pass catching threat that we brought him here to be. And so he's definitely a forgotten man. He really hasn't had a massive impact the last 2 seasons in particular. Really last year, if we're singling out a year with, him coming back from the injury. But I think I think the impact that Logan Thomas can have is huge in this offense. I don't think you can understate it. I really, truly do. And as far as I'd say it worked out too. Ultimately, when it's all said and done, because of how they ended up building the roster, I think you're right. I think it ended up working its way out, and I think it ended up working out for the best for us, honestly, because with what we have, Corey Davis would have still worked because he would have gave us something that we still truly don't have, which is size at the receiver position in particular. But he's not a speed demon, right? And I think the versatility that Curtis provides us with is phenomenal. And I gained a new level of respect for Curtis last year because I just need you to think about this. And I was thinking about this, I want to say either during the Reign of Terror series finale in 2022, or I was doing a different video talking about something else. But I remember recalling as I was running down the games how many big fourth down conversions Curtis Samuel caught last year. Like literally all of the fourth down conversions that we had, you know, the big ones that were completions, when you think about it, I think they were all Curtis Samuel. And go back to his first year here. His first game ever in Washington, because he missed the first 2 games of that 2021 season where he was signed. His first game that he played in was the Falcons game in week 4. He missed the first 3 games of the season. His first game wasn't until week 4 at Atlanta. He had some big catches in that game. He had a 4th down catch. He had a big 3rd down conversion catch. He's huge in those situations. He finds his way open and he makes big plays and he comes down with big catches. So that Indy game, he had every big catch in that game until Terry had the big catch. He had every big play. The Giants game, I think because remember, we were down 20-13 in that first Giants game, and it was a 4th and like 4. And Heineke scrambles, stays alive. I still don't know how he was able to scramble, stay alive. And I think he found Curtis Samuel. I could be wrong. I know it was Curtis in the Indy game, but I think it was Curtis in that Giants game, the first one as well. He was huge on 4th downs. I got a new level of respect for Curtis Samuel. You know, the thing I feel like he's lacking right now is the ability to go deep. Like, you're too damn fast not to be catching more deep balls. I get it. You got that sudden change of direction and that quick burst. So getting in and out of breaks and stuff makes you lethal underneath. But like, use that shit against teams. They thinking everything he does is going to be underneath. You should be running like a little short pivot route and then turn that bitch around and go up the sideline or some shit. Like, he too damn fast. You run a 4-3-1 or some shit like that. Like, he's a blazer. He should be catching a bunch of deep balls. I don't understand. Can he not track it? What's the deal on that? Anyway, I think it did work out. I agree with you. Red Wing 01, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Wing 01 writes, I like Milo Eifler too. He's got some tools. He's been huge on special teams. Maybe he can be something more. By the way, his name is pronounced Milo. Okay, Milo. Got you. Milo Eifler. Got it. So I like him, man. He's played well in the preseason the last couple of years. He's made some big plays, like wow plays where you see you go, okay, whoa. Milo's out here making some moves. I think there's a chance that he may actually see the field in some meaningful reps this year, if some things transpire. But I think he provides meaningful depth. I think a lot of people overlook him, don't give him, like, part of the reason they haven't been super aggressive at linebackers because I think they feel like he gives them some sort of depth. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, we'll see what Milo is able to do this year. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Phillies Ace 34 writes, okay, Louie, talking greasy already. I knew this was going to come. He says, I was trying to give respect, giving y'all flowers, but my Eagles are going to thump y'all twice. Reddick is going to put Howell out for the season, a.k.a. Purdy. I have no problems with you talking trash, bro. I'm not looking to be modest this year. I've already told you that. And I've already told the super friends, don't let us be nice. Because I asked the Lord, I said, please bless me with the trait of modesty. Okay. Because right now I'm not trying to be humble at all. If we nice, they're going to know about it. Everybody's going to know about it. And the way I'm feeling right now, I want to do the nice thing. I see when you're a fan of a losing franchise, you have no choice but to be humble. So I've already done the patting Philadelphia on the back thing. I've done the patting Dallas on the back. I've done the patting of the Giants on the back. Now I'm getting too close to the season to be patting anybody on their back. F all of y'all. That's the kind of energy I got right now. I already told you what I'm trying to do to the Giants. Y'all not even public enemy number one no more. All right, because I know we can beat y'all. For whatever reason, we got issues with Daniel Jones. That's who's all the smoke is directed to right now. I know I'm getting Philly once. I feel like it's time for us to start getting Dak on a regular. Like, Dak been getting away for years. I don't want it to get out of hand like it did with him with Daniel Jones. We need to set some type of precedence right now with Daniel Jones. Like, he didn't sign a long-term deal. He's going to be here. Let's set the tone now. You're not going to be doing us like you Eli Manning, boy. So that's where the smoke is right now for the Giants. I'm looking past the Eagles. I know that's who we got to catch up to in the division. I'm aware. And I'm not disrespecting y'all because I know where y'all are in the pantheon of NFC East teams. Y'all at the top. And I know in order to get where I want to go, I got to beat y'all. But you know what else I got to beat in order to get there? You can't be losing to the Giants. You want to stomp? You want to stomp with the big dogs? You got to beat the Giants. You know who beats the Giants twice a year? The Eagles. You know who else beats the Giants twice a year? The Cowboys. If we want to stomp with the big dogs, we got to stop letting the Giants get off on us. Everybody else wiping their feet on the New York Giants in the division. They the doormat, wiping their shit off on the Giants. We got to start wiping our shit clean off on them too. So as much as I want to direct smoke, I'm looking at the Giants and I'm like, everybody can get it. It's enough smoke to go around. But I'm looking at the Giants and saying, this is the year where we got to start whooping up on Daniel Jones' ass. I'm not having this shit. Because he ain't good enough to be beating us twice a year. So that shit's got to stop. Now that we got a quarterback, that's just going to stop. Now you ain't playing against Case Keenum or Dwayne Haskins or Taylor Heineke. And Heineke actually beat him, once. But now you got a real quarterback out there now. You're not catching no more breaks. I'm sick of this shit. So as I see what you were trying to do. You were trying to be modest, and I appreciate that. But I'm not looking to be modest anymore. I did enough of that, in the playoffs when I wasn't in and everybody else was in. I did enough of that shit. Now it's ass kicking time. So, hey, you're my guy, man. You're my guy. The Phillies ace 34. Anyway, I digress. I appreciate y'all coming out. That was the last. That was the last super chat. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Let me just say this. This week's probably gonna be a little bit different. That's part of the reason why I came on live tonight. Partially because I was gone over the weekend and practice takes place over the weekend. I was gone for a couple of days of big practices and then Monday. So I wanted to make sure we came and we kind of put a bow on all of that. But with the pads going on tomorrow, I'm really amped now. Like, I'm really going to be giving you some serious coverage now that the pads are going on, because this is when shit gets real. Like, we really can decipher some things when the pads are popping, right? So Ron, so let me make sure I explain this. Ron specifically said that this is how our practice is going to go this week in terms of pads. So the next 2 days are padded practices. Then he's going to ease up on them, and it's just going to be shells on Thursday. So Tuesday and Wednesday padded, Thursday shells. Then you go Friday, Saturday padded again, and then they're off on Sunday. So they're going to get some work in this week. And this will be a big week in terms of seeing who's going to take that leg up in the left guard competition. You're going to start to hear about this offensive line, and are they showing any signs of, gelling together? Early on in practice, it's been looking like the D-line's been dominating them. So Want to see what the hell's going on now. They're going to put the pads on. Now you're going to hear about these running backs, and you're going to see, how they're performing, because it's different when the pads are on and you're actually getting hit. So a lot of shit's going to change now. Now that the physicality is about to ratchet up. You're probably going to hear about a couple of scrums, a couple of fights, some shit getting heated, because that's what happens when it gets hot and you got pads on and you're hitting each other. So this week's shit's getting real now. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. Anyway, I digress. I thank you guys for joining me. Let me finish my thought before I go. This week's going to be a little bit different because the Hall of Fame game is this week. So we're getting football this week. And I probably won't be live Thursday night because I'll be, not necessarily recapping the Hall of Fame game, but just more of that, hey, football is back type of deal. So we may go live Wednesday. We may have to do it another day. And this weekend is going to be crazy because I'll be around. So even if it's not Thursday, it could be Friday or it could be Saturday that I go live, Saturday night, Friday night, whatever. They'll be different because my schedule is going to be a little bit different because different things are going on. So this will be a weird week, but you're going to hear from me every single day in some capacity. Know that. So anyway, I digress. Thank you guys for joining me tonight on the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless. Good night.